welcome to Tales of Honor Podcast, a podcast dedicated to telling the true stories of every recipient of the Medal of Honor. Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Tales of Honor Podcast. I'm your host, Christoph Ambrosch, and today's episode is episode number 307. Before we get into today's episode, some sad news from this week. On the 14th of May, which was Thursday, Medal of Honor recipient Ronald Scherer passed away at the age of 41. He had been battling stage 4 lung cancer since 2017, and it looks like his battle is over now, so our prayers do go out to his wife and his 2 boys and the rest of his family during this time, that they may have strength. And very sad to hear, especially now having 2 Medal of Honor recipients die very close to each other. It's never easy to lose somebody, but I think 41 is still a little too young. So my condolences to his family. If you would like to learn a little bit more about his story, I did cover it back on episode 211, and I'll have a link in the show notes so that you can go listen or read up a little bit more about Ron. He will be missed, and I guess that's the only bit of news I have for today. Now we move on to today's episode, which is episode number 307, which piggybacks a little bit off of last episode, which was for John F. Baker Jr., simply because it's from the same battle during the Vietnam War. Robert was born in Newton, Massachusetts on the 30th of May, 1941. He was athletic in high school, playing basketball, and received some scholarship opportunities before graduating. Robert wasn't originally interested in attending West Point Military Academy until he received a call to visit, and after his visit, he was set on attending. He did, and he graduated from the academy in 1963 when he was also commissioned as an infantry officer. By the time he was deployed to the Republic of Vietnam, he was a captain commanding Company A, 2nd Battalion, 27th Infantry Regiment, 25th Infantry Division, and it was his actions on the 5th of November, 1966, that would earn him the Medal of Honor. The citation reads, "For conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity in action at the risk of his life above and beyond the call of duty, Captain Foley's company was ordered to extricate another company of the battalion. Moving through the dense jungle to aid the besieged unit, Company A encountered a strong enemy force occupying well-concealed defensive positions, and the company's leading element quickly sustained several casualties. Captain Foley immediately ran forward to the scene of the most intense action to direct the company's efforts. Deploying 1 platoon on the flank, he led the other 2 platoons in an attack on the enemy in the face of intense fire. During this action, both radio operators accompanying him were wounded. At grave risk to himself, he defied the enemy's murderous fire and helped the wounded operators to a position where they could receive medical care. As he moved forward again, one of his machine gun crews was wounded. Seizing the weapon, he charged forward, firing the machine gun, shouting orders and rallying his men, thus maintaining the momentum of the attack. Under increasingly heavy enemy fire, he ordered his assistant to take cover, and, alone, Captain Foley continued to advance, firing the machine gun until the wounded had been evacuated and the attack in this area could be resumed. When movement on the other flank was halted by the enemy's fanatical defense, Captain Foley moved to personally direct this critical phase of the battle. Leading the renewed effort, he was blown off his feet and wounded by an enemy grenade. Despite his painful wounds, he refused medical aid and persevered in the forefront of the attack on the enemy redoubt. He led the assault on several enemy gun emplacements and single-handedly destroyed 3 such positions. His outstanding personal leadership under intense enemy fire during the fierce battle, which lasted for several hours, inspired his men to heroic efforts and was instrumental in the ultimate success of the operation. Captain Foley's magnificent courage, selfless concern for his men, and professional skill reflect the utmost credit upon himself and the U.S. Army." Robert received the Medal of Honor from President Johnson on the 1st of May, 1968, in a ceremony at the White House. He stood alongside John F. Baker Jr., who was covered on the last episode, for his actions in the same battle. Comically, Robert was 6'7", and John was 5'2", and President Johnson had commented in saying that the 2 of them reminded him of Mutt and Jeff, a popular comic that highlighted the 2 characters with contrasting heights. Robert went on to serve in several command positions and was the Chief of Staff for the 7th Infantry Division. He also returned to the U.S. Military Academy in the position of Assistant Division Commander for the 2nd Infantry Division, Commandant of Cadets. Robert ended his career in the Army after 37 years as the commanding general of the 5th U.S. Army in Fort Sam Houston, Texas, as Lieutenant General in 2000. He went on to serve as the president of the Marion Military Institute, a position he held until 2004. Robert Franklin Foley, at the time of writing this, is 78 years old and has said that he continues to wear the medal in remembrance of those he served with in Vietnam, and especially for those 17 killed in action and 27 wounded on that fateful day in November 1966. And that was a Tale of Honor. Thank you for listening to Tales of Honor Podcast. Head on over to talesofhonorpodcast.com where you can read these stories, see other ways to support the show, and easily share a story with your friends and family. Tales of Honor Podcast is written and produced by Christoph Ambrosch, and theme song, A New Beginning, is by Ben Sound. If you have any questions or comments, you can send them to talesofhonorpodcast@gmail.com. And until next time, I'm Christoph Ambrosch. Thanks for listening.